Hey there, welcome back to the College Basketball Bracket Science YouTube and podcast network. I'm your host, Brandon, for the day. Today we are talking players. We're talking our preseason All-Americans. We're going to release our 3 All-American teams. Of course, a lot of honorable mentions. The big question coming into the season in terms of the players, who's going to be the preseason player of the year? Will it be JT Toppin? Will it be Braden Smith? We'll compare and contrast a little bit. And then, of course, we're going to talk about some of the breakout stars, some guys that are kind of flying under the radar that might jump into some huge roles. I have one most notably who will probably be on a preseason top 5, at least in my opinion, would definitely be at worst probably 4th in the country coming into the season, who might step in and could be an absolute unit in an increased role. So we're going to talk about a few of those players. But before we do, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button before we dive into it. We have a lot of fun shows coming up. We got next week is going to be Coaches on the Hot Seat. We're going to be talking about some of the, real high major next coaching carousel in next year's preseason. Could be crazy. You got the Hubert Davises and the Jake Dieblers of the world. Also, unfortunately, just some, potential retirements, some health problems as well with Bill Self, most notably. I know Bruce Pearl went on a podcast talking about, he only sees himself coaching maybe another year or two. So a lot of high major big jobs could be opening up. We'll talk about some potential replacements. So coaches will be next week. And then also be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's in the name. And, we're posting a lot of good stuff. We'll post all these graphics you're going to see today on there, as long as, including in a couple weeks shows. We're going to start getting real busy on these social medias, most notably with the non-conference games to know. So, some of the biggest ones in the entire country. So don't want to miss that. Be sure to go like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Without further ado, we're going to go in reverse order here. We're going to go third team down to first team. So starting with third team and, of course, the honorable mentions as well. So let's start third team. Milos Uzan from Houston. He will be, the premier lead guard for this Houston team. I know a lot of people might see it as Emmanuel Sharp. I like Milos Uzan's upside a little bit better. When he got hot last year, late in the season, he really picked it up second half of the season as soon as Houston just took off and made a run all the way to the national championship game. A lot of the reason was Milos Uzan. He wasn't great to start the season, transferring from Oklahoma. Took him a little bit to get in the system, but he was fantastic. Great defender, great on-ball defender, as, of course, Kelvin Sampson's going to have. In my opinion, this is just going to be, best player, maybe not most important player, but best stat sheet player on what might be the best team in the country. Top, I'll definitely have them top 2 in the country going into the season. So just kind of like how, Jamal Shed was a couple years. He wasn't a stat sheet monster, but he was the best player on what was one of the best teams in the entire country. And he ended up winning that Big 12 player of the year over, the likes of Hunter Dickinson and, players like that who had better stats, but just best player, best team. I think Milos Uzan will do that this year. Last year, he averaged 11.4 points. Doesn't stand out as anything too awesome in the stat sheet, but as mentioned, he's going to step into a bigger role this year with the loss of L.J. Cryer, Jawan Roberts. The offense needs to come from somewhere. Milos Uzan and Emmanuel Sharp from Houston will be the ones making this jump. He also averaged 4.3 assists last year. He shot 43% from downtown. I expect, he's going to step into that L.J. Cryer role and will really make a big impact on the offensive end, as well as we know what he can do defensively. He's a tremendous defender. So trusting in Milos Uzan this year to be an All-American. And will this be his last year? We will see. All right, next up, let's talk about Bennett Sturts. Bennett Sturts transferring from Drake to Iowa. He was in the Division II ranks with Coach Ben McCollum just a couple years ago. He was absolutely outstanding last year at Drake for a team that won a game in the NCAA tournament. He was honorable mention, All-American last year, averaged 19.2 points, 5.7 assists, 4.3 rebounds on a team that played slower than anyone in the entire country. And he's going to be in the same exact role with the same exact coach, just at a different school at Iowa. Iowa fans, if you're used to that Fran McCaffrey, just score 1 million points, but also give up 1 million points, it is going to be the complete opposite this year. You're going to control the tempo. Bennett Sturts is the best, late in the shot clock, just taker and maker in the entire country. Takes a ton of them because they play so slow, makes a ton of them. It's going to be the same thing this year. They're going to slow him down Bennett Sturt's in position to be, he's climbing up on draft boards. It's unbelievable the climb that this guy has made. He also had averaged 2.1 steals per game last year, good on the defensive end. Bennett Sturt's, if we're not careful, could be a first-team All-American by the end of the season. Next up, AJ DeBansa. Now, it might be surprising seeing him third team. Now, I will say, I do have Cam Boozer and Darren Peterson ahead of him. I'm not saying that they're better basketball players than AJ DeBansa. All I'm saying is they're just put into place in more of a scoring and star role than AJ DeBansa. I mean, BYU is loaded with talent around them. They got Rob Wright. They got Richie Saunders. They even have, Kiba Kita. I think he's going to be a breakout player this year. Just absolute stupid bounce down on the block and jump out of the building. Not the biggest center, but muscular. He's a freak athlete. So they just have so many pieces that the scoring is going to have to share for this team to be as good as it can be. Will AJ DeBansa be able to do that is a little bit of what I'm concerned about. I know the defense has had some questions. He's not horrible defensively, but that's definitely the biggest work in progress for AJ DeBansa's games. I just think with Richie Saunders, I mean, let's talk about BYU for a second here. Last year, the end of the year, they were one of the hottest teams in the country. They made the Sweet 16, ended up getting blitzed by Alabama, but Alabama shot like 60% from three or something stupid. I can't remember what the exact stat was, but they just lit them up from deep. So BYU's going to have these pieces. And when they really started to pop off last year was when they really started basing the offense around Richie Saunders. So bringing in AJ DeBansa, will he, I mean, he's such a highly regarded recruit. Will he overtake Richie Saunders? Will Richie Saunders still kind of be the main piece? I would doubt that. But I'm just curious to see how those two work together. Because Richie Saunders is awesome, as is DeBansa. And then Rob Wright running the show, he can score the ball as well. So just a little bit curious about DeBansa's workload coming into this upcoming season. But we know he's going to be good. I just have him as third team. That's no disrespect to him. I just have Boozer and Peterson a little bit above him just because of basically the workload and the teams that they have around him. So we'll talk about them here in a little bit. All right, next up, I got Zuby Ejiofor from St. John's as a third-team All-American. This might seem a little low for some people. Might see him first team, second team for a lot of people. Kind of the same thing as DeBansa. I think Zuby Ejiofor is going to be the best player on St. John's. Now, St. John's has more talent than anyone in the country. It's a little bit of a chaotic roster, just putting it together-wise. But Zuby's the one who's been there with Patino for a couple years. He was a beast last year, 14.7 points, 8.1 rebounds. He blocked 1.4 shots per game, almost a steal a game. The defense definitely runs through him. He's just that big guy down low who just stops everything. Will the offense run through him this year is a little bit of what I'm concerned about because there's just so many pieces. And last year, he had Kadari Richmond, dishing it off to him more often. Now with Ian Jackson, he'll be more of a score first point guard, I guess. He's not really a point guard, but he's going to be starting at the point guard position. So Davon Smith and Kadari Richmond could drop it off to Zuby. Ian Jackson might not do it he definitely won't do it as well as those two did last year. So we'll see. This team has all the talent in the world. Bryce Hopkins could also average, 13, 14 a game, might take some of his scoring. So I'm confident in saying Zuby Ejiofor will be the defensive player of the year in the Big East. I'm just a little bit concerned about the offensive upside this year. Just nothing against him, just all the talent that St. John's has this year. So got him on third team. Going to be a great player, no doubt in my mind. All right, next up, Yaxel Lendeborg. Yaxel transferring from UAB to Michigan might also seem low for some. However, here's what I'm going to say. A little bit of my hesitation with Yaxel. Now, we know that he also has some real pieces around him at Michigan, which will be a top 10 team coming into the season, especially in the front court with Morez Johnson and Ade Mara. Last year, he put up huge numbers, 17.7 a game, 11.4 rebounds, 4.2 assists. He's a stat sheet monster. However, the team, UAB just wasn't that awesome last year, so they really did rely on him. I'm curious. I guess I'm just a little more worried than most about him transferring up. I have no doubt. I have him third team All-American. I have no doubt that he's going to be good. It's just how great will he be? Will he be, putting up 17 and 7 and 11.4 at Michigan in the Big Ten, the most physical conference in the country, arguably. I'm not 100% sure. I really like his game. He climbed up draft boards, but there's a reason he hasn't been drafted yet, and there's a reason that UAB team wasn't awesome last year, and they were supposed to be. So So we'll see. I'm kind of in the wait and see approach with Yaxel. I know he's going to be good. Like I said, I'm not discrediting him. Just, wait a little bit and see how he's going to do. I'm sure he will be close to averaging double numbers if he doesn't. But yeah, I'm just being a little more patient with him. All right, let's talk about the honorable mentions. So these would be, I guess, my fourth team, I guess. So these are kind of, some potential breakout guys I'm seeing. Three of at least the first three that we'll talk about here. Starting with Tahad Pettiford, no surprise here. He came off the bench last year for Auburn. He's going to be put into the star role this year, and he's awesome. Great three-point shooter. He only shot 37% from three last year, which was a little lower than I thought. It just seemed that he made the big shots when needed. Just most notably, that game against that game against Houston earlier in the season, which ended up being, two teams that made the Final Four, where Tahad Pettiford really showed up and kind of showed the world that, yeah, he's going to be a star. And I think he will be. He's going to lead that offense. I'm lower on Auburn this year, as is most people, including Bart Torvik, as we've mentioned on just about every podcast. They're not even top 25 at Bart Torvik. So Tahad Pettiford is going to be put into that role to just score a bunch. He averaged 11.6 last year. Would not be surprised if he averages 17, 18 a game this upcoming season. So Tahad Pettiford would be my guard on fourth team. Next up is also Alex Condon from Florida. In all honesty, I just felt like I had to put someone from Florida on here. I'm not sure. Alex Condon would be my pick, as it's a realistic question to ask, who's Florida's best player this year? I'm going with Alex Condon right now. They bring in Boogie Fland, who could be, I don't think Xavier Lee is going to be, he's going to be a role player, in my opinion, the transfer from Princeton. Thomas Houck is also, he's going to be a breakout guy just based on his stats last year. He's going to be playing the three, though, and Alex Condon's just kind of, he's going to be that guy who started every game last year that he played in. I believe, yes, he started every game last year that he played in. He's just that he's going to be the top of the scouting report for other teams, I guess would be the best way to put it. Ruben Chinyelu will round out their starting five. He's not much of a scorer. He's just a beast down low. I think Alex Condon's going to be my pick to really take the next leap. 6'11", 230, and moves quick. He averaged 10.6 last year, 7.5 rebounds a game last year. Wouldn't be surprised if this year his rebound numbers might go down a little bit with the addition of Micah Hanlockton coming back from that injury and, taking a few, they have so many pieces in that front court. I think his scoring will go up. I'd be surprised if he was less than 13 or 14 a game. But once again, I believe he's going to be the best player, if it's not Boogie Fland, on what should be a top 10 team yet again in this upcoming season. So going with Alex Condon from the Florida Gators. Now, a team that Florida beat in last year's NCAA tournament in the second round, might have been their toughest game. This is going to be a surprise to some people. I'm going to go with Terrace Reed. Now, I'm completely spinning the block. Some of the things I've heard from Terrace Reed, a couple of other podcasts, which is why just not only me do I, there's a lot of other great podcasts out there as well. Just listening to some of the other stuff and the words coming up, just all the talk, even Dan Hurley talking about Terrace Reed. I'm bought in. I think he's going to be awesome this year. When you look at his percentiles, he didn't play a ton of minutes last year. He played 19.9 minutes a game last year, less than 20 minutes a game. And he averaged 9.6 points, 7.3 rebounds in 20 minutes. So his per 40 numbers, if you look at that, that's 19 a game and like 14 rebounds. That's ridiculous. That is a ton. So I'm expecting him. Last year they had Samson Johnson. Terrace Reed was better than Samson Johnson. I don't care what anyone says. He was much better. He should have been playing a lot more minutes. This year he's going to have to take that step. And with a real point guard, no disrespect, with Silas Demery running point, I expect Terrace Reed to really make a big step this upcoming season. And last year he averaged 1.6 blocks per game in the in just 19.9 minutes. So I'm really expecting him to really make a huge jump this year. 67% from the field goal, 67% field goal shooter, excuse me. If he can develop a little bit of a shot, which I've heard he might, with these per 40 numbers and just with the role he's going to take, he's going to step into that stud big man position that we've seen every year from UConn, except for kind of last year because Samson Johnson played a little bit too much. I expect Terrace Reed to make a huge jump this year and could be, the biggest breakout guy in all of college basketball. All right, next up is Nick Martinelli. In terms of stats, he is probably, first teamish numbers. It's just how good will Northwestern be? Last year, he averaged 20.5 points per game, which was good for 12th in the entire country. 6.2 rebounds per game, shot 33% from deep. Played almost 38 minutes a game, so you can see how much they relied on him last year. He's probably going to score 21 plus a game this year. It's just how good will Northwestern be, quite frankly. How important will he be for a team looking for, will he be important enough that it gets them to bubble conversation, or I'm not sure. How will Chris Collins, really utilize it? And we'll see what Northwestern can be this year. But that is the third team in the honorable mentions. Next, we're going to dive into our second and third team right after we take a quick break. Hard to find affordable golf instruction. For example, let's take a look at this man's swing. Pulling the club head a little bit inside his line instead of working his hands up the plane is causing a little bit too much turn at the top. You can see his club shaft pointing way to the right, which forces that club to come in steeper than it should, hands a little too far away from the body instead of being in the slot, which will force a little bit of early extension here to get the club path back on target. For just $10, you can get a swing review just like this. Follow Brandon Jadich Golf and send a DM that says Bracket Science for just a $10 swing review. It's all you need. You don't need to spend $100 on a lesson. Just get your swing review and fix it yourself. Alrighty, let's talk about our second team All-Americans, starting with Donovan Dent from UCLA, the transfer from New Mexico. Averaged 20.4 points per game last year, which was good for 8th in the country. Transferring from Rick Pitino's system to Mick Cronin's might be a little bit different. Mick Cronin, tremendous defensive coach. Dent also averaged 6.4 assists per game last season, 1.4 steals. Mick Cronin has developed some incredible guards, and now he's already getting a incredible guard delivered to him. Donovan Dent should have the keys to the kingdom in that offense with his just offensive and defensive upside. Would not be surprised if he is averaging, 18 or 19 a game in the Big Ten yet again this year, along with dishing it off to Tyler Bilodeau every other time that he doesn't score. This UCLA team could be, a little bit underrated going into the season. They have all the pieces. Can Mick Cronin take them to the promised land? We will see. Donovan Dent going to have yet another huge season. All right, next up, PJ Haggerty, transferring from Memphis to Kansas State, got rumored to be about $4 million in NIL money this year. He averaged 21.7 a game last year, which was good for 3rd in the entire country for Penny Hardaway, got him to a 5 seed. The year before that at Tulsa, he averaged 21.2 points per game. So he is one of the best scorers in the country. He's one of the best at drawing fouls in the entire country as well. Just with his offensive ability just raises Kansas State's floor like crazy, because when it's late in the shot clock and, the offense that's been a little scattered the past couple of years, just give it to PJ Haggerty and let him take it to the rim and draw a foul with his shooting ability as well. Shot 36% from deep last year. It just raises their floor. So I'm not sure how good Kansas State's going to be, but I know they're not going to be horrible because of PJ Haggerty, just how good he is as a basketball player. He is an absolute stud. Transferring from Penny Hardaway's system to Jerome Tang's, we'll see. We saw Jerome Tang really breed, Marquise Noel into an absolute star. So curious to see what Kansas State is like this year, but with PJ Haggerty, I have no doubt that they'll be all right. And PJ Haggerty will most likely average over 20 a game. When you're getting $4 million in NIL money, yeah, they're paying you to come score. He's going to come score, and now I'll bet he's over 20 a game this year yet again. All right, next up from Gonzaga. This will be the only mid-major on this list. I hate it. I know, there's going to be some that pop up in the conversation. Going with Graham Ike. Now, for those who listen to the podcast a ton, I'm a little lower on Graham Ike than some. I know he is so efficient in every analytical. I don't know if I just catch his bad games or what it is, but I had to put him on here just stat-wise. 17.3 points per game last year, 7.3 rebounds per game last year. 4 years in a row of averaging double figures. He transferred from Wyoming to Gonzaga a couple years ago. He's also developed a little bit of a shot where he can kind of make it 80% from the free throw line last year, 39% from three on, limited attempts. But if he can develop even more of a shot, I think Gonzaga is going to be better than people think. Braden Smith, who we're going to talk about on first team here in a second. Braden Smith from the transfer from Colgate, who won conference titles at Colgate every year, transferred to Gonzaga. He should be in position to run the point or at least get a ton of minutes. Tremendous passer of the basketball. I think he's going to be dropping it off to Graham Ike a ton. I think he's going to have a huge year for a Gonzaga team that's coming into the season a little bit underrated. I think this team's going to be really good. And I think Graham Ike will, he'll be the best player on that team. All right, next up is Cam Boozer. Cam Boozer, the freshman coming into Duke this upcoming season, him and his brother Caden. Cam, I think, is just put into, position where it's, John Shire is always going to get a good recruiting class. I'm a little bit concerned about the scoring this year for Duke in their offense. I think Cam Boozer is going to have to really be the guy, kind of like how, Cooper Flagg was the guy last year, but around him, they were also awesome. Like this year, they're going to be good. Don't get me wrong. I think they're really good. It's going to be, last year, their Ken Pom ranking was just unbelievable. It was one of the high. I'd have to check the stats. It might have been the highest ever to not win a national championship at Ken Pom. I'm sure that stat's out there somewhere, but yeah, that team was just so good all the way around. They lose a lot. They lose a ton from their starting lineup. So Cam Boozer is going to really fill into a spot where they're going to need some scoring. They're going to need some production. He's a winner. He wins everywhere he goes. So yeah, I'm expecting Cam Boozer to have a huge role, which is why I have him a little bit ahead of AJ Debance. Just I think it's going to be Cam Boozer's team. I'm not 100% sure it's Debance's team. It's going to be Cam Boozer's team, though, in my opinion. Sticking in the ACC at NC State. How about that? An NC State guy on second team, thanks to Will Wade and the Money Boosters. Darian Williams, the transfer from Texas Tech, made the Elite Eight last year. Darian Williams is awesome. Averaged 15.1 points per game last year, 5.5 rebounds, 3.6 assists, along with 1.3 steals per game. He's a good shooter. He is probably as good as anyone in the country at booty ball, just backing his guys down low and, just taking them to town, going to work. He's a big, guardish forward, 6'6". Depends what you label him as. I have him labeled as a forward. I believe he's labeled as a forward, but yeah, kind of plays a little bit of a guard role. But yeah, Darian Williams stepping into that Will Wade system. It seems like it's going to be just a tremendous season for NC State. This roster's good. They have a star in Darian Williams. He's going to be, the guy for this NC State team. They have good pieces around him. Just kind of seems like a perfect fit, in my opinion. I expect Darian Williams to make yet another jump for a tremendous coach. Man, he's played for Will Wade and Grant McCasland too. Will Wade's been a star, I guess, but Grant McCasland is a star now as well. Just two tremendous coaches, and they are really building them up. All right, without further ado, let's dive into our first team All-Americans. No surprise here on there's two of them. We'll talk about them. All right, Braden Smith. Let's start with him. Maybe the preseason player of the year. We'll kind of debate on Braden Smith and JT Toppin at the end here. Braden Smith, 15.8 points per game last year, 8.7 assists per game, which was good for second in the country last season. He is awesome. That's basically the only way to put it. He is absolutely fantastic. First team All-American last year. Everyone thought with Zach Edey they would drop off, and they did a little bit. They still made the Sweet 16, but Braden Smith was pretty much the reason. He was awesome, along with Trey Kaufman-Renn, who we'll talk here in a second. His instincts are as good of a guard as we've seen in a really long time. Last year, coming into the season, there was a lot of talk about RJ Davis and Mark Sears maybe being preseason player of the year. I never really liked it just because, yeah, they were like, the best returning players, but was there really room to, keep growing? It was kind of, I don't know. Braden Smith, I think there is, and that's why I'm a little more confident in him this year, potentially being a player of the year, just because he's getting better. Trey Kaufman-Renn's getting better. The team's going to be better than last year's team was. They have more pieces around him. The players around him are getting better. more continuity, more years together. So Braden Smith's going to be in position for just yet another huge year. He also averaged 2.2 steals per game last year, which just flies under the radar. Shot 38% from three. Yeah, he's going to be fantastic. Anyone picking him as your player of the year, do not dislike it at all. He is fantastic and going to be a huge part of the conversation in all of college basketball throughout the entire season. All right, next up, Darren Peterson from Kansas. I am going with Darren Peterson. I'm bought in on him. Bill Self is bought in on him. He's going on podcast saying he's the best player he's ever recruited. I would probably agree with that. I might have thought it was Andrew Wiggins until, the NBA career. Well, it hasn't been a bad NBA career, but he was supposed to be the next big thing. And I do think Darren Peterson is the next big thing. He might shoot 20 times a game this season, which is an over-exaggeration, but he is going to have the ball in his hands so much. They really built around him this year. They're letting him just cook, basically. They're going to let him score like crazy. All the shots are going to be his. He is a tremendous shot maker. He is a tremendous shooter. The pieces around him and Flory Badunga in the pick and roll action. Now, Flory Badunga isn't really known as a scorer. He's a lob threat like crazy, maybe the best lob threat in the entire country. He's going to be a breakout guy. The Kansas big man, him and Darren Peterson working together. Flory's a tremendous screen setter. Darren Peterson coming off those screens, shooting threes, shooting mid-range. Yeah, I would be surprised if he averages under 19 points per game this year. That's how bought in I am on Darren Peterson, and that's why I have him as a first-team All-American going into this season. All right, next up is Otega Oweh. So Otega Oweh is coming in as an SEC first-team all-conference player last year. He averaged 16.2 points per game, 4.7 rebounds per game. He is a beast on the defensive end as well, 1.6 steals per game last year. He developed a shot last year. He became a go-to guy. If you'd told me last year, Otega Oweh, I mean, for those who don't know, he transferred from Oklahoma the year before. Hopefully you saw it last year when he hit a game winner against Oklahoma in the regular season, which was at Oklahoma. It was kind of a cool moment for Otega. At Oklahoma, I thought Javian McCollum was better than him. Obviously, I was very wrong on that. Otega Oweh goes to Kentucky. Javian McCollum transferred to Georgia Tech. Didn't really do anything spectacular last year. Otega Oweh goes to Kentucky and has a huge season last year. He's in position. He will be the preseason SEC player of the year. And the SEC player of the year has to be your first team, has to be a first team All-American, in my opinion. It's probably going to be the best conference in college basketball again. Them or the Big Ten. And the best player in that conference, you have to put him on first team All-American. So I know it seems like it might be a little bit of a stretch and a huge jump for Otega Oweh, but my goodness, that jump from last year or from 2 years ago to last year was absolutely unbelievable. I think he's going to be, he's a veteran presence, second year under Mark Pope, who's as good of an offensive coach as we have in the country. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch Otega Oweh this year. I got him as a first team preseason All-American. All right, next up, speaking of good offensive coaches and good offenses, Trey Kaufman-Renn back for another year for Coach Matt Painter, averaged 20.1 points per game last year. Him and Braden Smith are just going to just help each other out like no other. Braden Smith is going to get a ton of assists, dropping it off to Trey Kaufman-Renn, and Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to get a ton of buckets by getting assists by Braden Smith. Just the best 1-2 punch in the entire country. No doubt about it. He was an All-American or was he an honorable mention All-American? It was one of the two. I consider honorable mention All-Americans, by the way, because they're it's not like they're labeling off like 20 guys as honorable mention. They label off like 3 or 4. So I consider those All-Americans as well. So Trey Kaufman-Renn there in that conversation, he's going to continue to grow. Now, I know the concern out there is Daniel Jacobson will be back, and they brought in Oscar Clough, the transfer from South Dakota State. So will his shot load go down a little bit? We'll see. I'm still confident enough that he's going to play enough minutes. He played 31 minutes a game last year. I think that's going to go up this year because he is so highly thought of now. I think it'll be about 33 minutes. I'd be surprised if he's less than 18 a game this year, and he's a great rebounder as well, 6.5 rebounds last year. Not too awesome on the defensive end, but in a team that is going to be top 2 going into this season with this 1-2 punch, I'm trusting Matt Painter. I'm trusting Trey Kaufman-Renn. I'm trusting Braden Smith. I'm putting 2 first-teamers from Purdue. Purdue at worst will have a top 5 offense in the country. Their offensive floor is so high. With these two, with Fletcher Floyer knocking down threes, CJ Cox knocking down threes, and Oscar Clough in there, Daniel Jacobson, just an unlimited amount of resources. This team is going to be awesome this upcoming season. And last but certainly not least, JT Toppin from Texas Tech averaged 18.2 points per game last year, 9.4 rebounds, was an All-American last year, Big 12 Player of the Year. He continues to get better and better. Just think last year, if JT Toppin would have stayed at New Mexico with Donovan Dent and JT Toppin, who just continued to grow. Now, give Grant McCasland a ton of credit. JT Toppin got better as the year went on. I mean, a lot better. He is just absolutely spectacular. That little down low, just post little hookish sort of thing, just little floater, is pretty much unstoppable, even in the Big 12. As mentioned, 18.2 points, 9.4 rebounds. Shot 55% from the field, 32% from three, or excuse me, 33% from three on, limited numbers, obviously, but 1.5 blocks, 0.8 steals, not bad on the defensive end. He's going to, with the loss of Darian Williams, he's going to step into even a bigger role this year. Christian Anderson and JT Toppin will be the 1-2 punch that is going to be highly thought of for just about everyone in the entire country. JT Toppin is going to be an absolute monster. I will be surprised if JT Toppin, I guess Darren Peterson's in the conversation as well, but I'll be surprised if JT Toppin doesn't win Big 12 Player of the Year. Him or Peterson, I would put money on it that one of those two will win the Big 12 Player of the Year, unless, maybe PJ Haggerty steps it up and, averages 24 a game for Jerome Tang and bubble-ish Kansas State team. We'll see, but yeah, I'm going with JT Toppin as Big 12 Player of the Year this upcoming season. So let's debate a little bit on JT Toppin and Braden Smith, which probably isn't a good exercise to do because they could not be any different players. Funny enough, JT Toppin's kind of a similar player to Trey Kaufman-Renn. Now, JT Toppin's got more upside and has higher pro potential. They're kind of similar, both kind of just knock down floaters at the block or towards the elbow, and both are just absolute monsters and can rebound the crap out of the basketball. But it's hard to compare JT Toppin and Braden Smith, as mentioned. It's just Braden Smith is who I'm leaning preseason player of the year just because of Trey Kaufman-Renn. He's going to be able to dish it down to him. He has so many pieces where he could average 10 assists a game. He could average 16 and 10. And I don't see anyone for a team that I think is going to be a 1 seed, at maybe a 2 seed. I don't see anyone surpassing him as the player of the year unless, something horrible happens to Purdue again in the first round of March Madness or something. But JT Toppin, I think, could average 20 points per game and 10 rebounds per game. And then what do you do if Braden Smith averages 16 points per game and 10 assists per game? Now, obviously, rebounds are easier to come by in college than assists are. But yeah, it could be last year we saw it with Flagg and Broom. Toppin and Braden Smith seem like the two heavy favorites right now for Player of the Year. I'm going Braden Smith just by a hair. Would not be surprised if it's JT Toppin. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to cover. I think Texas Tech is going to be awesome as well. I'd be surprised if they drop worse than like a 4 seed, even with losing Darian Williams. I'm so high on Grant McCasland, as many people are now, and they should be, because he is a rising star. And we'll talk about him a little bit next week in the and now I don't think he's going anywhere. I'm just plugging it a little bit. We'll talk about him next week, though, in the coaching hot seat. He is definitely not on the hot seat, but in terms of maybe a replacement for some of these other big schools. So next week we'll be talking about, the Syracuses with Coach Adrian Autry, and Ohio State with Diebler, and North Carolina with Hubert Davis. Some big years for them upcoming. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, Grant McCasland, a rising star. He is already at stardom. He is a tremendous X's and O's coach. All right, that is it. First team, second team, third team, honorable mentions. I'm curious what everyone's thinking, Braden Smith or JT Toppin as the player of the year. I'll probably even do a poll on our Instagram. So be sure to go plug that. That's at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Go check it out, Instagram and TikTok. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and those post notifications so you can stay up to date. We're going to talk a lot of coaching next week. Then after that, it's going to be non-conference games to know. So you don't want to miss that. All righty, we'll talk to you again in about a week. Everyone take care. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.